Well, that was quick. The Indiana Fever and DeWanna Bonner have parted ways. They basically released her and put her on waivers, and this whole situation and soap opera surrounding it, man, just shows you what a wreck this league is, and just how bad it is, how bad it's been, and just how bad of an uphill struggle they have in trying to, get the respect of the casual person, the people who watch these sports leagues. And I mean, we're used to criticizing these sports leagues for far less issues than what the WNBA has, and this just shines even further light on that and just how far this league is down. So basically, DeWanna Bonner, she joined the team as one of their vaunted free agents in the offseason. I thought it was a good move at the time. I made a video 4 months ago called "The Indiana Fever Look Great for 2025," and then I talked about DeWanna, and I clearly missed the mark. I said I thought she was going to be very good for the team. I thought her veteran presence would be a good thing. I really felt like she would understand her role, that she's getting older, that she can't do some of the stuff she used to could, and that she was going to be okay. She would understand she'd have to take a back seat. That she was there, basically for Caitlin. She wasn't going to have the role she had in the past, and overlooked a few things in that, and namely the fact that she was not going to be okay with that. Looking back, we should have known that Indiana's plan was flawed. She has, or the team, they went after a lot of the big name free agents: Natasha Howard, DeWanna Bonner, Sydney Colson, Brianna Turner. They didn't really worry about creating a good team, though. They just went after the biggest names available and got them because they're the Indiana Fever and they're the ones drawing all the ratings right now, and most of the attendance as well. So yeah, looking back, it was a problem. And the whole way this thing's gone down has been pretty crazy. So DeWanna Bonner was really the star, her and Natasha Howard of the off season for the Indiana Fever. And she was immediately in the starting lineup when Sports Illustrated did their cover piece with the Indiana's young core of three with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. They also had DeWanna Bonner there. I would have put Lexi there, but that's neither here nor there because she'd already been with them for a season. But they went ahead and put her there. That's how much she was expected to make an impact for the team. And immediately it was clear that her and the team were not on the same page. Now that's okay. That happens. Sometimes the free agent shows up and everything's not all that great. Believe it or not, if you remember the Miami Heat Big Three when LeBron got there with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, they had a little bit of a rocky start. They got it together, ran through the playoffs, and went to the finals against the Dallas Mavericks, where LeBron hilariously gagged his guts out. Something we still enjoy talking about to this day, and we'll probably enjoy talking about for a long, long time. But that's another story. but but yeah, I mean, she was there, and after about 4 or 5 games, she was taken out of the starting lineup, which I thought was a good move. Let her come off the bench, let her kind of get her rhythm there. And then, she didn't show up for a game because of personal reasons, which, obviously the WNBA is a little bit different than a lot of these other leagues. You know, Stephanie White herself has missed, a few games for personal reasons. As it turns out, she's in a relationship with Lisa Salters, of all people, which is kind of a little bit of a strange pairing, but I mean, good for them. I hope they're happy. And, I guess Lisa's mother's not doing so well, her father, some of the family, I hate to hear that. And, she wants to stay behind to comfort them. And, that's cool. I'm glad that, they're able to do that. Guys' leagues, it's a lot more, no, you're going out there and playing, it doesn't matter what's going on. You have to shove all that to the side. As guys, that's kind of how we deal with a lot of stuff is shoving it aside, moving forward, and just trying, getting that distraction out there. We're able to compartmentalize a lot better. So I just assumed something was going on there. And of course, obviously, DeWanna Bonner is engaged to Alyssa Thomas. They were together in the Connecticut Sun last year, and I promptly dumped all over her. They call her playoff AT. She's been in the playoffs a lot with the Connecticut Sun over the last 6 or 7 years. She's in Phoenix this year. And all those years, the Sun had very promising playoff runs that ended disappointingly. So I always liked making fun of that. But they're engaged, and, I thought it was kind of interesting that DeWanna Bonner went to Indiana and Alyssa Thomas went to Phoenix. But I figured, okay, they're engaged, so they know what they're doing. You know, they've got their relationship figured out, and they're okay with that. I didn't really even talk about that part of it because I try to leave that stuff out. But that's just, it turns out I can't really leave that out anymore. It's just such a big part of the WNBA's DNA is their sexual identity, which to me is kind of crazy. I mean, to me, it's one of those things that just shouldn't matter, doesn't matter, and shouldn't matter. But it's a very big thing for them. And there's a lot of other things in the past that kind of show that. I know Jason Whitlock has a theory on that, which I'll talk about in a second. I kind of liked his theory. There's a few things I like to talk about there, but I didn't think much of that. I figured, okay, her and Alyssa have this figured out. They, were together on the Sun. Now they're apart, and that won't be a bad deal. I didn't think that was going to affect anything, and apparently I was wrong because immediately within a few games, DeWanna was taken out of the starting lineup, and Lexi Hall was put back in, and DeWanna saw less and less time as her production just was not there. She was not clicking with the offense. Um, you can see a lot of frustration on her, but she's a veteran, so I figured, okay, everything will be all right. She'll figure it out. She's been here. She understands this, but she missed a game for personal reasons, then another, and it kept going, and just there's no information coming forward. We're like, what's going on? Why? I mean, at the end of the day, it probably helped the team because they've got too many. I feel people that need to score a lot, and that just doesn't work. There's only one ball, and you're asking these people that have done been such crucial centerpieces to teams in the past to basically take a back seat to the young core. And I guess I should have recognized that that wasn't going to go over so well. But I figured DeWanna being so late in her career would be okay with that, and I guess not. And plus, apparently, she wants to go to Phoenix to be with her fiance, Alyssa Thomas, which is something that, like I said, I kind of wanted to talk about at the time because I thought, man, I'd have a hard time leaving my fiance behind or, moving that far away from my fiance for professional reasons. But I didn't know it was going to manifest itself like this. She apparently she wants to go to Phoenix now, is what all the reports say. All the reports said that that they were heading for a split, and that wound up happening. Finally, too many people were asking questions like, "Come on, what's going on? Why is she just constantly not showing up for personal reasons?" We assume something must have been bad going on in her life, and which I mean there still might be, but she released a press release just saying, thank you to Indiana for the opportunity. It didn't work out. Wish them luck and all that, but it just shines once again a big bright light on the league that just shows that they are not ready for this spotlight to be taken seriously as a true professional sporting team and sporting league. And again, I talked about the sexual identity. Jason Whitlock has talked about that. I like Jason Whitlock a lot. I listen to his stuff. I agree with a lot of what he has to say, and the stuff I don't agree with, I respect. I respect him as a thinker and as somebody who's not going to just talk nonsense. Anything he says, he's put thought into, and even if I don't come to the same conclusion as him on a certain topic, I respect his opinion and respect the fact that he put a lot of thought into that. So it's just one of those things. But he talks a lot about the sexuality of the league. A lot of people have been focusing on Caitlin Clark and her race. The fact she's white and all that, but there's been a lot of white players in the league, and there's not really been an issue there. So, but the thing about the WNBA is they've always been a very, very, very much a lesbian league. It's mostly gay women, which I mean is okay. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think anybody has a problem with that on the surface, but these are the people that really want to shove that part kind of down people's throats. They're very outspoken about it. A lot of us, we've been around gay men and gay women. The majority of them, they don't talk about it much because we just don't talk. None of us really talk about our sexual preferences a lot. But the league is not just full of gay women, but lesbians that wear it proudly on their sleeve. And you're very much about this is who we are, and if you're not like us, then take a hike, which is so unlike most gay people, but or at least the ones I've come across. I don't know, y'all might have different experiences, but they're just very much about that. And Candace Wiggins, I thought, shone a light on that. She was a big star by the WNBA standards, a big star for them in the early 2010s, and she retired kind of abruptly before she even turned 30, and she later said she wanted to play another 2 seasons, but she didn't want to play for the WNBA anymore. She said being straight and being popular, she said she was bullied and targeted and just really, really given a hard time, saying that she felt like about 98% of the league was gay, which I mean, might have been. And she later clarified, that's just because she felt like she was like part of the 2% fighting against 98%. But she kind of made the point that it's a very much predominantly lesbian league, and that they really single out and bully the straight women, especially the popular straight women. And that's starting to look like a foreshadowing now for what happened, almost because she came out saying this in like 2017 or 2018, and of course the league fought back against that idea, even though they're kind of showing now that that's probably the case, because obviously Caitlin Clark is straight. She has a boyfriend, which she keeps her personal life personal, which is a good thing. I think it's good for her. And it's not something she talks about, but it's known, it's out there. She's straight. And for these types of people, these types of identity politics people who like to wear their identity, like their sexual identity, on their sleeve, that's a problem. She talked about it, and Jason Whitlock talked about it. With people like DeWanna Bonner, who's obviously in a lesbian relationship. Is that going to cause locker room friction with people like Caitlin and Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham and these other people that are now very nationally famous, either because of Caitlin Clark or because they're playing with Caitlin Clark? Is that going to be a problem? I don't know what Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey's sexuality is, and it doesn't really bother me either way. But what was it just too much for DeWanna? Was she just not happy to be on a team with so many straight people? Did she want to be on very much what Jason Whitlock described as they're basically a league where these lesbian teams come to town and just have a little lesbian party with their 2,000 or 3,000 people that show up, and about 200,000 or 300,000 that watch on TV, and then move on to the next town. And I think there might be something to that. I think the sexuality part of it is going to be an issue for the WNBA going forward. So it just shines a terrible light. The fact she was able to stay out so many games with no explanation, just saying personal reasons, and wanted to go, and they finally had to let her go. This is one of the legends of the league. She's been in there for a long time. She's 3 years younger than me. So she's about 38 now. She's just won a couple championships. She's the third leading scorer all time. She got that in the first game with the Fever, and that was by far the highlight for her season, with her time with the Fever. And it just shows you that this is just in any other league, this would have been a bad deal. Antonio Brown got drugged for all the crap he put his teams through, and he's dealing with a lot of CTE from that Vontaze Burfict hit. But but it is a lot of rightful crap we've given Antonio Brown. And DeWanna Bonner goes out and does it, and it's nothing to the league at least. And the rest of us are sitting there like, big deal, folks. Come on, what's going on here? And how could she not see that being away from her fiance was going to be a problem? I mean, I felt like I could have. I was worried about that, and I felt like I could have told you that, and I wish I would have said that. Like I said, I was just trying to leave all that at the door, but you can't. You've got to bring it up. It's just so hardwired into the league. You have to talk about that. Jason Whitlock has to talk about that. All of us that are just now getting into it, and there's just another one of those steps where we're looking at the WNBA saying, gosh, you guys have so far to go. Poor Caitlin Clark, she's a mainstream athlete with mainstream skills and mainstream marketability, and she's stuck in just this amateur league. And it's a league she's trying to really glorify and praise. She's a WNBA fan. She wanted to be in the WNBA, and she wanted to be like Maya Moore. And the league just will not embrace her. I mean, what else could you want? Somebody actually grow up wanting to be in the WNBA. Who does that? They have hard enough time drawing an audience as it is. And so I don't know why they would keep doing that. And the other issue I have with this DeWanna Bonner thing is we're 11, 12 games into the season, and she's already by game, I guess 7 or 8, decided she didn't want to do it, be part of that team anymore. Does anybody like to just stick things out and see if they can make them work? It reminds me of my marriage, to be honest with you. We're divorcing, and we'd been together for a while, but we got married, and within 5 months she was saying, yeah, I don't want to be married anymore. And I told her, I said, can we at least, try to make this work? And she's like, no. And that's just kind of where we're at. It's just nobody wants to push through with anything. On July 4th, in a couple of weeks, my parents are going to celebrate their 50th anniversary, their 50th wedding anniversary. They got married in July 4th, 1975. I mean, what a story. And I mean, there's been a struggle for them at times, but, they've pushed through it. People just don't do that anymore. And it's like, really? After 8 games, you knew you didn't want to do this? And it's just such a bad look for the league overall. It's a bad look for everybody. And it's just kind of another, I guess, step in the shot in the whatever of, their credibility as being taken seriously as a league. So I hate that for the people like Caitlin Clark that are serious about this and trying to seriously make a living. But the WNBA has a lot of issues. I mean, we knew they did last year, and with even more of a light on them in a second year now, this light on them, you can see it's just a really bad league. Somebody needs to take the reins and say, look, this is what's going to happen, and that's that. We're going to try to make money. We're going to, do our best. We're going to capitalize on this Caitlin Clark phenomenon. And if you're not on board, get off, because everybody except for Caitlin Clark is interchangeable in this deal. Asia Wilson, I know I probably sound like a hater to her, but she's interchangeable in the grand scheme of things. Probably the best player in the league, but I mean, if she disappears and doesn't play anymore, ain't gonna change nothing. Ain't that right, Loki? Loki knows. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why this league is the way it is, and why they're just so woefully unprepared for the prime time. I mean, I'm sure it has to be jarring after all this time and never being given any attention, and you just are basically get to be your own little lesbian country club. But I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it, and this is just yet another shining another light and just another really ugly side of the league. They need sweeping changes. They really do, because Caitlin's not going to be young forever, and the biggest thing is people aren't going to be this patient forever. We've been very, very patient, with this league, because we want to see Caitlin, we want to see her career progress, and we want to see her succeed. And as much as we love her, we're only going to put up with that for so long. So hope they get it together for her sake and everybody who cares' sake. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys later.